Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and today we're speaking with guest Dr. Paul Kenger, who is a professor of political science at Grove City College and author of many books, including The Devil and Karl Marx, and most recently, The Stigmatists. He is also the senior editor for The American Spectator. Wow, good morning and welcome to the show, Paul.
Thank you, Keith. Good to be with you.
Likewise, thanks so much for joining us this morning. And for those out there who might not know, don't want to assume anything, could you briefly explain what the Stigmata is and why it's fascinated people for centuries?
Well, it's fascinated me for a long time, including when I was a Protestant. So I'm a convert to the faith. Actually, I'm technically a revert, but that's a long story, as you could probably imagine. Grew up in the church in the 70s. And the dark ages, as some of my friends call it. So became an evangelical, became a Presbyterian, and that would have been, I guess, 1990s, around that period. And I was following closely the canonization process for Padre Pio, who a lot of people don't realize, wasn't canonized for over 30 years after his death in 1968. And I saw photos and I saw video of this Italian priest who lived while I was alive. So I was born in December 1966. So I'd have been about 2 years old, I guess, right, when he died. But still, it was contemporary in my lifetime. And I saw these photos and video of this guy bleeding from his hands, bleeding from his feet, from his side. And he had been investigated by teams of investigators from the Vatican, clergy, bishops, priests, cardinals, not to mention doctors, scientists, atheists, agnostics, skeptics. And there was no question that this guy was legit. And I learned that he wasn't the only one. In fact, I go through this in the book. Probably been about 400 to 500 stigmatists in the course of history that we can assess. And the first is probably St. Francis, although some people think that St. Paul in the very first century, probably he says in Galatians, I bear the marks of Christ, or stigmata in Greek, on my body. And so what they are is that they are markings that identify this certain chosen victim soul, and the person is chosen. You don't just develop these on your own. This is a supernatural gift that identified this person with the passion of Jesus, literally nailed to the cross. So the markings are usually in the hands, they're usually on the feet, although some people over time have had the crown of thorns or parts of a crown of thorns. St. Rita of Cascia, who lived in Italy in the 15th century, she had a single crown mark on her forehead. And I should note here, because a lot of people don't know about this, but many of these stigmatists have had the shoulder wound of Christ. And I think this is actually spiritually, theologically kind of profound. They've said that was actually the most difficult wound of all. It was the most painful, kind of the most vexing. And the ones who had discussions with Jesus about this said that Jesus told them that for him, that was the most painful of the different pains that he endured. And if you think about it, Keith, right, we are told that by Jesus, if you want to follow me, pick up your cross and follow me. So we're all called to carry the cross. So in a sense, that could be sort of the most painful, difficult wound of all, I think tells us something.
It certainly does. Wow. That's incredible. You're listening to Morning Joy, where truth matters. We're talking with Dr. Paul Kenger about stigmatists, and especially his book, The Stigmatists, their gifts, their revelations, and their warnings. Paul, I'm curious, because you mentioned there's over 400 stigmatists that you've kind of uncovered and mentioned in the book. Do we know if there's any living person today that has the stigmata?
Oh, there's definitely a few that are claiming it. Yeah, for sure. I talk about them in the last chapter. Yeah, I urge people to caution with this, right? The church in most of these cases has not stepped forward to authenticate whether it's real or not. There's a woman in Italy right now named Gisela Cardia, and that's actually a changed name from what I could tell. But she's been kind of a sensation in Italy. She's been on all the talk shows. Their version of Good Morning America, everything from that to, probably whatever the Jerry Springer show would be for those who remember the Jerry Springer show.
Oh,
But
yeah.
she is she's doubted, she's made fun of, she's ridiculed. I've followed it. I've actually been to the town where she
Hmm.
lives, and actually total coincidence. I was at the town before she emerged and started having these revelations and these marks, and the church. They kind of shut her down for a while and told her to quit going on media, quit speaking publicly. And then the church did a little bit of an investigation several months ago and kind of ruled against her, but they ruled against some of what she was saying and some of her claimed visions. They did not make a statement about her stigmata. And I found
Hmm.
that really curious and really disappointing, because you could see the videos online where in one case she's with a female Italian doctor from Milan and a couple of
Hmm.
other people, and she's got her hands out, and from her palms it looks like oil at first, and then it looks like blood. And I mean, I watched this and I was just spellbound. I thought, I mean, this doesn't look like she's faking it to me. I mean,
Yeah.
look at this, look at this. And what's very frustrating about so many of these things today, here we are in America, and all CNN and Fox and MSNBC and the New York Times and everyone cares about is, Trump, Biden, and Kamala and our election and whatever else
Hmm.
is going on. For me personally, if there's someone somewhere in the world who's bleeding from her hands, and these are supernatural gifts bestowed by Jesus, and like I said, she's not the only one. Um, I, I
Yeah.
I want to see the cameras there.
Right.
I want to see 60 Minutes do a show on it. Actually, maybe we don't want to see 60 Minutes do a show on it, right?
Right.
But I like to, and this ought to be taken, quite seriously. But in our superficial secular age, we can't stop away from political bickering and fighting and whatever else is going on right now in our lives to pay attention to something that looks like, truly Christ from the crucifix as, rays of light, pierce the hands and feet of these people today in the year 2024, like he did with St. Francis on September 17th, 1224. We
Hmm.
just had the 800th anniversary of Francis receiving the stigmata.
Right.
So, this is carrying on now through the ages and through the centuries, and so many people in our secular, cynical age apparently could give a rip about it.
So what was it that led you to, like, okay, I'm going to write a whole book on stigmatists, and what do you hope that readers will take away from it?
Well, part of it was some of my favorite saints: Francis, Padre Pio, Catherine of Siena, and I have
Hmm.
Catherine of Siena on the cover of the book. It's a beautiful painting where she's receiving the stigmata directly from her crucifix in front of her. As that happened likewise with Padre Pio and with Saint Francis. So I have many biographies on all of them. I think I've almost everything on Catherine of Siena, a bunch of biographies on Padre Pio, and I'm an academic, I'm a scholar, and I started, collecting this stuff and writing in the margins, and then I learned about a few others that a lot of people don't know about. Saint Gemma Galgani, 1878 to 1903, died in our lifetime. A little Italian nun from Calabria named Blessed Elena Aiello, who died in the early 1960s. Her case really fascinated me. She had some really apocalyptic visions about, chastisement, balls of fire from the sky. She had that. Sister Faustina Kowalska had visions like that.
Hmm.
And by the way, the woman who just died, Sister Agnes, the Our Lady of Akita
Yeah.
seer, who had the extraordinary visions in October 1973 about clergy fighting clergy, bishops against bishops, cardinals against cardinals, chastisement from the sky. She just died. She had the stigmata. People don't realize
Hmm.
she had stigmata while she was having these visions. So for me, I started collecting a lot of this for my own curiosity and peace of mind to try to determine, is this really legit? Especially these cases we don't know about, people that aren't formally sainted in the church, like Elena Aiello, Sister Agnes. And if so, and do they really tell us these things, or this is just some sloppy claim that I'm reading on a not very reliable, website somewhere on the internet? So I wanted to look for my own, on my own,
Hmm.
for my own peace of mind. And then once I
Hmm.
started to see these things and thought, wow, it appears they genuinely said this, I thought the wider world needs to know about this. People need to know about these visions, these statements, these claims. So I thought I need to put it in a book, especially because there have been so few books done on stigmata, and that's how this came about.
It's nice that there's now a book that you can kind of go to and learn more a little bit about stigmatists and whatnot. I know we have a couple moments left on the radio here. Any lasting message you'd like to share with our listeners before they start their morning?
Yeah, I'd say pay attention to these saints, especially the ones who've died in recent times. The saints and the blesseds, like I said, a few have been blessed, but like the message of Saint Faustina, everybody knows about her message of divine mercy. I mean, she was the first canonized saint of the new millennium by Pope John Paul II. She died in 1938. Jesus told her, "You will prepare the world for my second coming." I mean, that's the main reason for the message of mercy, right? Get yourself together now. And if you read those diaries, like so many people have, a lot of people miss the little part in there where she talks about receiving the marks, the stigmata of Jesus. Now, in her case, they were invisible, which I know will prompt some people to doubt them, but if you read the diary, you won't doubt this woman at all. She was extraordinarily humble, all the time being mocked by other nuns in her convent. But yeah, she had some extraordinary visions, and people should pay special attention to her in the last chapter.
Paying special attention to these saints, especially once we're coming into election seasons, very important. Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Paul Kenger, for jumping on the show this morning, talking about stigmatists. And of course, we can get more information about you and also your book, The Stigmatists, Their Gifts, Their Revelations, Their Warnings from Tan Books. So we'll put all that information in the show notes. But thanks again, Paul, for joining us.
Anytime. Good to be with you. Thanks.
If you'd like to see more content like what you just saw, make sure to like, follow, subscribe, tag along, whatever the kids are saying today. I don't know. But hey, also make sure to play our Catholic trivia game where you can win a prize just by playing. Here's what you can win. Yeah, go to grnonline.com/joy.